welcome to episode number 12. My name is Jimmy and I'm coming to you from Bushwick in Brooklyn. Today is February 15, Friday, and this is a knitting and sometimes spinning podcast. Today I'm going to talk to you about a couple of projects that I have finished or are almost finished, some things that I've been working on, and a little bit about my experience at the recent event of Vogue Knitting Live here in New York City. First of all, I'm going to brag about what I'm wearing today. You've seen this before because I've shown this sweater when I finished it before. It's my Sipila by Caitlin Hunter, and I love it so much. I wear it all the time. Maybe a little too much, but I love it. It is a top-down color work yoke, and it has a little bit of detail on the sleeves. This sort of detail repeats itself here. So that's what I'm wearing. I made this with my friend Connie's yarns, ChileKnitz, in her blue jeans, which is the blue color colorway, and the embers, which is the gray with speckles, in her cuddly sock base, which is a merino nylon blend. Yep. And that's what I'm wearing today. Okay. The first thing I'm going to show you is the cowl that I had been working on last time. It is designed by my friend Agus González, who lives in Barcelona. The name of the cowl is called Vogue Again, and it is from her collection of designs inspired by her native Argentinian culture, the gaucho culture, just like the Argentinian cowboy culture in the plains of Argentina. And this is this cowl that I decided to knit. It has a little bit of stranded work at top. Then it goes into a basket weave section, the different color, and then we go back to the colors from the first section, but we just stripe them. And for this project, I used Malabrigo Worsted, the brown, I think it's called Applewood, and the green, which I think it's called maybe Sapphire Green. I had, as well as the yellow, which is cadmium, the lavenderish and pinkish. I dyed from a bare skein of Malabrigo Worsted that I had. And the color scheme that I wanted to go for was something that would remind me of the African violets that I grow. So that's why I chose those colors. Right. It's not fully blocked yet. I just gave it a little bit of steam, so it's not really fully blocked. But yay, I wove in my ends, sort of. This has come in handy very recently when it has been really cold some days here in New York City, and when I'm walking my doggy, I put this on and my coat on and whatever, and I don't have to worry about a scarf or a shawl maybe not covering me completely. And this actually, because it's thick. It actually stays up. It has a little bit of structure and it stays up, and I can cover my cheeks and my nose sometimes if I have my coat around me. And it's been so nice to have. So I'm glad I decided to knit this cowl. For this cowl I used US 4 needles for the ribbing on both ends, and then I switched to US 7 needles for the stranded colorwork section because I didn't want it to be tighter than necessary. So I think when I do stranded, I tend to tighten a little bit more. And then I went to US 6 for this, for these two bottom sections, and then again back to US 4s. So yay, first finished object. The second project that I have that is finished is a project that I almost finished, I should say, that I had talked about. Last time I said my best friend from college recently became a dad, and I decided that I wanted to knit his baby, his newborn baby, something. So I chose the Garter Stitch Baby Kimono by Joji Locatelli. It's almost finished. Here it is, ish. This is what it looks like. I used a fingering weight yarn. This is a superwash merino nylon blend, so it can be put in the washer because it's going to be needed, I'm assuming. And I used some leftovers from my exploration station shawl that I made last year. I still have some leftovers, and this is a ChileKnitz, also a cuddly sock merino nylon blend, in her tea time colorway for the border and the I-cord straps. So this is not quite finished because I still need to put the buttons and then block it, and it should be finished then. The buttons that I bought, I got from Vogue Knitting Live, and it's I got them from ChileKnitz. And it's these cute hedgehogs that I'm going to use in the sweater. So yeah, I used a 2.5. I used 2.5 needle for this, which is what the pattern calls. But I know that I tend to be a looser knitter than most, so I cast on the middle size, hoping to get the bigger size, which I think I did. And other things that I changed for had to adapt as I go. I've never done baby knit before, and so I don't know if you're gonna notice, but you knit this flat, and then you knit this flat, bottom up, right? And then you separate for the sleeves, so you have the two front flaps and the back, and the flaps start decreasing as you go, and the pattern says to keep knitting until the body measures a certain amount. And so that's what I did. I kept going. It doesn't really give you numbers. It doesn't really say how much you should leave for like the shoulders or anything. It just says keep reducing until the body is so long. And then I realized that the body wasn't measuring what I wanted it to measure, and I was going to run out of stitches, so I had to stop and just keep going until it measured whatever it needed to measure. But then I realized that if I left it like that, it was not going to have any shoulders. So when I picked up for the edging, I decided to make a little bit of a wider, like, shawl collar, I guess, to try to give it some shoulders. So the pattern just says to do maybe like a couple of rows for the border, and I did some German short rows to try to get a bigger border. And so, yeah. But anyway, so this is almost done. It just needs to, I need to find some thread to attach the buttons to it, and then block it and send it away. And my friend, while I was doing this, my friend Belén, who lives in Oxford in England, she has a very interesting project. She does tutorials in Spanish for knitting tutorials, where she uses the English terminology, because in English knitting terminology is very standardized, and in Spanish it isn't so much. I think each different region and different part or country or whatever, they might use different terminology. It's not exactly the same, so it's not as standardized. So what she does is that she uses English terminology and makes tutorials to teach people to read patterns in English, even if they don't speak English, but they can understand the terminology so that they can follow patterns and knit stuff like this or whatever, so they can be part of the wider knitting community and enjoy patterns that are in vogue or whatever. So she's been doing this project for over a year now. She has a lot of tutorials in Spanish, and what she's starting to do is that kind of like the next step is to start to write very simple patterns that are both in English and Spanish, so that people can follow those patterns along and learn how to knit following English terminology. But anyway, her channel on YouTube is called Tejer en Inglés, which means knitting in English, and it's a really awesome project, and I love it, and I'm really happy that she's doing it. But as I was knitting this, my point. So I was knitting this baby sweater. She released a new hat pattern with a simple stranded color work to teach people how to do stranded color work. So she sent me the pattern, and I made a hat. It's called the Nahia hat, the design, and it is both. I said it's both in English and Spanish, and it's very detailed because it is meant to be a beginner-friendly. Well, actually, a beginning encouraging knit for people who are just learning to knit or who are not very confident. And I made a matching hat for the baby, and has some simple color work at the bottom, and then some decreases in the crown. And the original design has a pom-pom, but I was a little lazy, we would say. And I just decided to do an I-cord because I thought it would look cute in a baby that is weeks old, to put a little I-cord as a little horn. So, yeah. So that's my other finished. This one is finished. I haven't wet blocked it yet because I'm gonna do it together when I do it the other one. But this one is finished. The pattern is for DK, I believe. So what I did is that I held the two strands of fingering weight together to get that sort of approximation of DK, and I believe I used US 4s and US 6s for the body, or for the rest of the hat. Right, US 4s for the 1x1 ribbing, and then US 6s for the rest. Right. The color work is not very well defined because I used speckled yarn, but I like the way it looks anyway. Right. Okay. So, little baby knits out of the way. And I think that's all my finished objects for this episode. I am working on a couple of things. I recently cast on, I guess, a little update on the the other projects that I was working on last episode. I'm still going to undo the hat that I was doing with the black rim and the colorful hat, because I am going to do another windchief that I showed you. I'm going to do another one for me, and I'm going to use that yarn. I'm going to hold it double, and I'm going to put some more hair in that. So maybe next time I'll show you if I'm working on that yet. And the socks, the pocket socks that I had been working on, I need to undo the slip stitch section because I need to do it again with the bigger needle that I was working. So anyway, those need to get those need to get frogged, and I'll show you the reworked on those. But I started because when I cast on a new pair of socks, using the yarns that my friend Paula from Tres Pompones on YouTube sent me from Portugal when she visited. So here they are. I'm doing 2 at a time socks, cuffed down. Like I said, I'm using the yarn that my friend sent me. It is a Portuguese wool, and the brand is called Retrosaria, and the blend, it's 100% Portuguese, and I think it's called Mondim. Yes, right. And they are very nice and soft. It feels a little rustic, but not in a bad scratchy way, if you know what I mean. So I'm using what I usually do, which is US 1 Chagu needles, with my magic wand as protector. So I don't poke my eyes out. So on US, what I do is that I cast on 72 stitches for my feet, using a US 0, and I do a 2x2 ribbing for about 20 rows, and then I switched to the US 1s, and in this case I'm doing like a broken rib 4x2, where I do one round of 4x2s, and then the next round I just knit it all the way around, and then I go back to 4x2, and then I knit, and that's what I have so far. Right, and these are my my on-the-go project. On the go. This is the project that I take to like my knit nights at Knit City, or if I go somewhere for an event or something, that I can carry this with me, and this is where I work on. And here in Brooklyn, the shop String Thing Studio I started a guys knit night on Thursday nights, and I've been going to that, so I've been working on those there. And this is that's the pin for String Thing Studios. So, and so this is what I take when I go to knit nights and stuff like that. And the other project that I have been working on is my Marled Magic sweater that I mentioned several times before, and that I showed you a little bit of last episode. It is in my West Knits at the Best Knits bag that I got from Stephen West. I'll talk about that later. But anyway, this is what I have so far. Yeah. Last time when I talked to you guys, I was working on section number 1. I finished 2 sections, section 1 and 2, and this sweater has, I believe, 14 sections, so I am just starting. Last time I was working on the mesh, which is what I showed you, I think, and I was at the very beginning of the mesh last time, so I finished that, and then I picked up to work on the seed stitch section, and I finished that. And the way it's going to work is that the seed stitch section goes on one of the sides, the left side, and it kind of goes to the back, and that's, and the mesh is part of the, oops, the mesh is part of the sleeve. This is a very big swancho type sweater. So that's what that's going to look like. So section 2 is done. I am going to start section 3, this part. Then I need to pick up for section 4 to close this. So yeah, that's what I have so far. Marled magic. Obviously, I made a little mistake there. But no one's gonna notice. No one's gonna notice. I didn't do it because I didn't notice until much later, and I was like, no one's going to notice. I'm going to pick up stitches. I'm going to pick up stitches along that border later on, and I can just hide it there, and I could shove that little extra piece of fabric to the back. I'm using US 6 needles for this project. The options are US 8 if you want a bigger, more slouchy sort of sweater, but because, like I said earlier, tend to be a looser knitter than average, I thought if I used the 8s, then I would end up with like really extra slouchy. So I thought if I use the US 6 suggested size for something slightly tighter, I might end up kind of in between, which I thought would be a better option. We'll see. So yeah, Marled Magic sweater. And that is all I have in terms of knitting content. Spinning, I've been doing very little spinning lately, but I'm hoping I will get it together and do some spinning. I have been going to Knit City on Sundays when they have a spinning group, because as you know, I have a wheel, but I want to keep practicing either my drop spindle skills, or more importantly, my supported spindle skills. So I've been going there and practicing, and this is what I've been spinning there on Sundays. That's kind of the only time I've been doing spinning, is when I go there. So I thought that was a great opportunity to have that group where I could have an excuse to get out of the house and practice something that I really wanted to practice and socialize and whatever. So yeah, that's all the spinning that I've been doing. Not much, but some. I'm working, I think I've shown you before, I'm working with some Into the World, Into the World fiber. I think it's merino, Polworth, and silk. It's a Polworth silk blend, and it's called the Cat's Pajamas. So, yeah. And that's all the spinning I've been doing. And, well, and the rest that I have to talk to you about is a little bit of a recap and, how do you say it nicely? The wool piggery that happened at Vogue Knitting Live. So Vogue Knitting Live happened a couple of weeks ago here in New York City in Times Square. For those of you who don't know, and I'm surprised if you wouldn't know because everybody seems to. There was a lot of Instagram feeds about Vogue Knitting Live, and I'm sure that if you couldn't come or you weren't here, you got sick hearing and seeing about everything that was happening. But so yay, one more recap for you to sit through. This year I did 1 lecture and I took 3 classes. So I'm gonna talk about that a little bit. First, the lecture was a Stephen West lecture where he talked about knitting inspiration, a little bit about the evolution of his designs, and culminating in the presentation of his latest book, which is called Hibernating. And it was that day was the launch of the book, so I was lucky that I was able to get one, and I was able to get it signed. This is the book, Hibernating, and not to brag or anything, but yay, he signed it for me. He's always very nice. There are some interesting designs in here, and there's a couple of sweaters, this being one of them, a couple of accessories, hats, there's a cowl, there is a shawl done with like worsted or iron weight yarn, so it would be a very thick and quick project. There is a chevron design, so yeah, I was very lucky to have been there and seen him and hang out with him. Well, hang out with him, he's not my friend. He's very nice, but he's not, I mean, we're not buddies. And then I went to the marketplace because I knew that I was going to be busy the rest of the remaining of the days, because I was going to be taking classes. So I went to the marketplace and terrible things happened, and I got a lot of yarn. That the yarn I didn't get at Rhinebeck, I ended up getting here. So I hope I don't buy yarn for the rest of the year. But anyway, the classes that I took a steeking class with Franklin Habit, which was amazing. He's a wonderful teacher, and the assignment, you have an assignment and you are supposed to do some kind of like color work, band with little stripes, and then in the class he teaches you how to secure your work. I'll put up some pictures. How to secure your work before you cut it, how to secure your work after cutting it, and at the end of the class you learn how to put in a zipper. We didn't finish putting in the zipper, at least I didn't. Maybe somebody else did, but anyway, so yay. He teaches you how to put in the zipper securely, and so yeah, it was an amazing class. 3 hours, very well worth spending with him. And so if you ever have a chance to take a class with Franklin Habit, I imagine that the rest of his classes are as good as the steeking class, but if you get a chance to take the steeking class, do it, because I feel, after taking that class, I feel very confident about steeking and not have my crap fall apart. So that's awesome. And even the zipper, this is all done by hand. I do not have a sewing machine, and the premise of the class was that you were going to learn how to do all these things by hand, not with a sewing machine. And even though he explains in the class, if you have a sewing machine, how to do it with a sewing machine, this is all done by hand. And even though I didn't finish the zipper, it's still pretty secure. And I did this all by hand, and I have never really sewn anything before, by hand or otherwise. I might have mended socks before, maybe, but but so yeah, so great class, and super confidence building, right? So yeah, so I was very happy about that class and very inspired, and I have some ideas for the future that they might happen. So that was my Franklin Habit class. Then I took a double knitting class with Sockmatician Nathan Taylor, where I learned I do know how to do double knitting basics, because I've done it before. I've done like little squares of double knitting, but I always thought that was kind of, I'm not a huge fan of making scarves because I find them dull and I get bored easily just doing the long rectangle and repeating the same thing and no increases or anything. So I took this class because we learned to do increases, decreases, yarn overs, make ones, etc., etc. So that means that I can now do other shapes other than just that boring rectangle that I wasn't so keen on before. So that was an interesting class. I enjoyed it. It covered a lot of basic stuff, but it also covered a lot of stuff that I I felt like I didn't know, and that was going to be very, very useful. So I'm glad I took the class. And then my last class was a shawl design class with Melanie Berg, and like, I was in love with Melanie Berg by the end of this class. This lady is very intelligent, very eloquent, very clear, and she knows what she's talking about. So we covered basically the most popular shapes of shawls, how to get them, how to explore them, from the rectangles that I was talking about that I didn't care about, to the circles. So we went the rectangles, triangles, symmetrical, asymmetrical, circles, semicircles, and I learned a lot in that class. Even though I've done a lot of shawls, I think that I can understand the basic principles of how to construct different types of shawls and how to depart from the regular construction to do some different shapes and different things. So yeah, I was very happy I took that class. And again, if you ever have the opportunity to take a class with Melanie Berg, I would highly recommend it, because I think that you will end up learning a lot. And so after that was the end of Vogue Knitting, and I was exhausted. I actually ended up, when it was announced, I bought a package for the lecture with Stephen West in one class, and I was like, okay, that's fine. But my roommate knew that I was looking forward to that, so when the classes were released, he bought me 2 more classes for Christmas, a Christmas gift. This way I ended up taking three classes in the lecture, and that was a great present. And and that's why I make a lot of things for my roommate, because he is very cool. And but anyway, so the next part that I'm going to show you is the purchases. If you don't like that sort of thing, I understand, and thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. But if you do, don't judge. Because I'm already judging me. So, yeah. These are the purchases. That might not seem like a lot for some people, but they are a lot for me. Let's see. Let's get organized as to how we're going to do this. The first thing I'm going to show you, well, even before that, the idea, my purchases, oh God, I'm going to start breaking out in nervousness, is that I always go with the plan of, if I'm going to buy something, except for Fiverr, if I'm going to buy something, it's for a project, right? So I always try to make purchases that are focused on projects. So like I showed you, the Trinkle purchase was with the baby sweater in mind, and since I was there, I also bought this. A whips per inch little tool, wraps per inch I mean, and this is a tool for my spinning. As you can see, it gives you the wraps per inch, the average wraps per inch, and the size of the yarn. I don't have one of those, and I bought that, and I bought the buttons at Trinkle. But they have a lot of cute stuff there. Also, I bought, I think at the last Vogue Knitting Live, I told you about Edward's Menagerie, which is like a amigurumi sort of toys, I guess they're called. And this year they released a collection for doggies, and for their Edward's Menagerie, which is their line of amigurumis, dogs. So I got a book. I got it signed by Carrie. And I got some yarn to make my roommate a boxer. My roommate used to have a boxer. I might have talked about him, Rocky, when at the beginning of the podcast last year, and we had to say goodbye to him about a year ago, and I want to make my roommate a little stuffed boxer, just because I think he would appreciate that. So I got also some yarns to make the boxer. These are the colors that I think would match Rocky's colors the best. And they gave me a little project bag with the dogs' logos. So yeah, these are alpaca, I think. Yeah, no, 100% wool. Yeah, these are 100% wool yarns in DK, and the colors are cream, charcoal is this dark one, and fudge is this brown one. And so hopefully I will be starting that project soon. That is a crochet project, which will be fun because I haven't done crochet in a while. So those are my purchases for my crochet project. The next thing I got was some fiber from the Fiberists. I got, I think this is the only fiber that I got at Vogue Knitting Live, which is a top. It's 6 ounces of merino, bamboo, and silk blend, and I think it's rayon from bamboo, and I liked it. So we'll see what comes out of that. But spinning. The other tool that I bought for spinning, it's not fiber, but it is a tool. It's this bowl for supported spinning. Right, you use the bowl and then you spin your supported spindle on that. And what's particular about, I can't really show you, but what's particular about this bowl is that because it's longer than just like the average, let's see if I have one to show you. This one I bought last year. The same maker, Stephen Willett, is the maker for this. It's the same maker, but this one I bought last year. This one you could put on a table or something and to rest and spin, put it on the floor and spin using that. But sometimes, because of, for whatever reason, I'm sitting but there's no table, or I don't, because I'm a big guy, I don't necessarily sit comfortably on the floor. So I got this, and I can put my legs around it and hold it with my legs as I spin, and that's why I bought that. This is why I bought that tool, to help me with my spinning when I am at a place where I cannot use a table or something, so I could use that. The next purchase was from Annie & Co. It's a yarn store here in New York City in the Upper East Side, and they were selling some of Alex Creates Hombre cakes, and that's what I got. I got some Hombre hand-dyed yarn from Alex Creates. This color is called Taino Gold, and it's worsted targi. It starts in a golden, obviously, in a golden thread, and it fades into a creamy, natural wool. And that's what I got from Annie & Co. Some Alex Creates. This is going to be a hat. And it's probably going to be for my roommate. The next thing I got, which does not have a project, things started going downhill. The store, the Argyle Yarn Shop, who hosted a Stephen West evening a couple of days ago, and I was there too, also, had some hedgehog fibers that was exclusively dyed for them for this event, and I think it's called Moonstruck, and this is the color. And I saw it and I liked it, and it's a skinny singles, and I wanted it, and I got it. I don't have a project in mind, but I liked it and came home with me. And then I fell down the rabbit hole of Barnyard Knits. Barnyard Knits is a indie hand dyer. I think her name is Kim. She lives in New Jersey, I believe. And I've been following her work on Instagram for a long time, and I knew that she was going to be there, and I wanted to buy a lot of her yarn, and I did. So this, I got these 2 skeins because I'm going to make a Stephen West shawl for my roommate. My roommate goes to, I think I talked about, you know, he started working out and having a healthier lifestyle, and he goes to Barry's boot camp, and their logo is chevrons. And Stephen West has a shawl design. I'm going to put a picture here if I can, of a shawl with chevrons down the middle that I thought he would like, and so I'm going to make him that shawl with these 2 yarns. They are merino nylon blend. This one is called Winter Wonderland, and this one's called Fantasy. And these are fingering weight yarns. And then I bought me these. I don't have a project for these. I don't know what I'm going to use them with, if they're going to be together or if they're going to be on different projects. I don't know. This one is called Treasure Cove. This one's called Blackboard. And these are fingering, again, merino nylon blend. And these are for me. I don't know what I'm going to do, but these are for me. And I don't know if you remember, I made a sample knit for Denise, who's the owner of Yoshi and Lucy yarns or knits, and I did a Stephen West shawl for her called Fading Waves, and well, that's hers, but I loved making it, so I wanted to make one for myself, and I got some yarns from Kim to make me. And these are the yarns that are going to make the body of the shawl. The fading, I'm going to start with this, fading to this, and with this. And this is Blizzard, Stormy Seas, and Rusty Pickup. Right. And then the shawl has a border that I decided to go with a contrasting color for the border, and this is called Fading Light, and that's going to be the border. So we'll see, but this one does have a project in mind, or so I think. And as you'll recall, I'm working on my Marled Magic sweater, and I stopped at the Stephen B booth, and the lady from Lavender Loon Yarn Company was there, and she was very sweet and very friendly, and she had this mohair that is called Glow that I absolutely fell in love with, and I'm going to use this in my Marled Magic sweater. And then I stopped by the neighborhood fiber company, and I bought a couple of mohairs from them as well. This one's called Del Rey, and this one's called Shepherd Fairy, and if you this is mohair silk, and if you recall, this one is going to go into the sweater. This one is going to go into the hat that I am going to frog with the ChileKnitz, and I'm going to put one strand of this throughout the hat. So we'll see how that goes. But so these are going into the Marled Magic sweater, and this is going into the hat. And if I have leftover of this, I'll put it in the sweater as well, because why not? Right? As Stephen West says, more is more, less a bore. So I also stopped at the Knit City booth, and they were selling some Malabrigo. The guys from Malabrigo, Antonio and his son, were there, and I got to chat with them a little bit, and I got a skein of, which is like all messed up now, but I got a skein of mechita in one of a kind in one of a kind colorways. I don't think it has a name. It says unique color, so I don't know if it has a name, but it's a speckled. At Vogue Knitting Live at the event, I met Isabel Kramer, and I've been seeing her shawl, A Girl's Best Friend, everywhere in my friends' feeds, and I decided that I wanted to make myself that shawl. And it's a very girly shawl, but I don't care. And I told her that, and she approves. So I'm going to make that shawl with this yarn that I bought from Knit City, but I also had some yarns that I had bought from Knit City before, some Madeline Tosh merino lights, and that I'm going to use with that for that shawl. This is a this is called Dubrovnik, and it is a dark with some greenish bluish undertones in it, and this is a aqua blue, also Madeline Tosh. I think it's called New York Aquarium, and that's going to go with this Menchita. The shawl is a triangular shawl, so the colors that the color sequence that I have in mind is to have the centerpiece be this dark color, and then followed by the this blue for the lace teardrop sections that are in the middle section, and then there's a ribbing at the border that I would do with this, and the pom-poms I would make out of this, because I am going to include the pom-poms. I told Isabel that I would, and she definitely approves. So yes, it's going to be a very girly shawl, but I don't care. I think it's really cool, and I'm going to make it for me. So yeah. This past Tuesday, I went to the Stephen West presentation at the Argyle Yarn Shop, and I couldn't resist buying some stuff, so of course I bought some more stuff. I got me this bag that I had shown you before, Stephen West. I got a little bag, like a sock project that I had him sign for me. I got a sticker with the Texture Time promo pictures that I had him sign because, you know, I am not a groupie. I got a pin, brioche it up, pop. I got a couple of minis from Hedgehog Fibers to include in the Marled Magic sweater, and these are called Bubble and Wildcard minis. And because the Argyle Yarn Shop is a stockist for Barnyard Knits that I had just been showing you tons of yarn from, I bought me this there. And this one is also merino nylon, and it's called Castaway. So yeah. So that's all that we have for today. Thanks for watching, thanks for returning if you're a returning viewer, and thanks for giving this a chance if you're a new viewer. I hope that you enjoyed what you watched today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.